Really, it's really only in the church that we see this idea of, hey, it's not about what we take. It's about how we give of ourselves as a way to honor and worship God. All right, y'all, welcome back to episode 94 of the What's the Dill podcast. I'm happy to have you. I'm glad you're here. So happy that you made time out of your busy day. Do you have tests you're studying for? You have a boss breathing out your neck. You have kids that need taken care of. You have all that to do, and you're spending it with me. Man, I'm grateful. I am grateful for that. I know that life can be busy. So thank you for carving out some time of your busy days, busy lives to spend a little bit of it with me here. We're going to get into this idea of hyper-individualism and why that's so poisonous for young men. But before we do that, I got to get something off my chest. I am furious. I am furious about the NCAA tournament. As you all know, I'm a basketball fan. I went to Seton Hall University, played in the basketball team, still a big fan of the team. And we missed the NCAA tournament this past Sunday. And I am furious at the reasons why. I'm not going to get into details, the conspiracies, but I'll just put it like this. Seton Hall missed it, and teams that got in shouldn't have got in my very humble and biased opinion. But, man, watching Selection Sunday and seeing Seton Hall not be on it, I was like, man, what is the point of all this? I might not fill out a bracket out of protest. I might not do it. I might fill out a bracket. I might not fill out a bracket out of protest. Still debating. Got a couple hours of the games, but I might do that at protest. But I was furious. And I was really excited about Seton Hall making it this year. But what I'm most upset about is the reasonings for the NCAA tournament committee. You know, they have Selection Sunday, then they have like the committee get on TV, which I think is so ridiculous. Why they don't just like they then go on TV and try to explain themselves, which is always going to make the teams that don't make it really upset. Like, we now have to listen to the stupid reasons why you didn't include my team. Okay, great. And the reasons are always terrible. And basically, this committee guy gets on and is like, oh, Seton Hall didn't do this and did that, and this team did that, and all the metrics they had, which are supposed to be objective, or not objective. But Seton Hall didn't make it. So I was pretty upset about that. I'm still a little bit upset, but you know, what can you do? You can wait till next year, right? But to Seton Hall Pirates and Seton Hall family out there, what a season. Did great. Proud of all you guys out there. So nothing to be ashamed of. But next year, we're coming. We coming. Hopefully we can go another run. But that was getting me pretty upset this past Sunday. So next thing I want to talk about, I want to jump into is a day of fasting. I was going through my head a little bit, and I was like trying to think of ways of which we can connect more as like a community, as an audience, as friends on this podcast. And I wanted to throw a challenge out there to all of you. Do you want to join me in a day of fasting this Friday? So if you're seeing this Thursday, this is going to be Friday. Do you want to join me in a day of fasting? I think I'm going to do a day of fasting, or maybe next week. I'll try to figure out, maybe try to align a day of fasting we could all do together, where we don't eat or drink anything. We just drink water or black coffee, and for a whole day. And I think that I like the idea of doing it, and I'll put it like this. I'm going to do it, but I'd love for you to join me. I'm not going to force anyone. I'm not going to guilt anyone into doing it. But I think I like the idea of doing it together, because doing something hard and challenging together is always more fun. It's always better. Like me, when I do something hard and challenging, I need it to be fun. Like, I need hard things to like have a fun side to them. That's how I do challenges. That's how I get through hard times. I see the fun in it, and I'm like, all right, this is a game. I can do this game. I don't have to worry about just a challenge. So doing that together with people, pushing through challenges with people and having it be fun has always been great for me. So I want to extend that invitation to people, like, hey, like, let's do a day of fasting together and have it be fun and check in on each other and see how it's going and share your experiences with me, with the channel here, whatever. Because I'd love to hear about your experience with fasting. And the reason I think it's so important is because, you know, fasting, especially during Lent, you know, is just an easy thing we can do to push ourselves. It's a physical thing we can do, but it pushes us spiritually. So I've talked about fasting on this podcast before. I think it can be really, really great for young men to to fast from food with all the things you got going on in your mind, all the things you got blasting through that smart brain of yours. Sometimes to even that out, to shut off those voices and to reach a little bit of peace, fasting is a great way to do that. So I'm going to put out this invitation to fast with me for a day, and I'd love to do that with some of you, and I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear about how you're fasting and what that means for you and how you're feeling about it. So I'll follow up with all of you on a day of fasting, but I don't know. I thought that could be a fun thing we could do together, and I'd love to actually do more things together, whether it's physical or spiritual, to kind of, connect a little bit more and to do things, again, that are fun together. So if you have any ideas of something that we can do as a community together, let me know, comment, DM, whatever, you know the deal. I'd love to hear about it, whatever it is, nothing too small. Trust me, nothing too small. So reach out to me and tell me something that you think we can do together to kind of build community and build faith life together. So on that, and going into kind of the meat of this episode, why fasting is so important. Well, not why fasting is so important, but fasting is important because it can help calm our spirit and leave room for God to work in our lives. And why is that so important? Well, hyper-individualism is at an all-time high in our culture. That's not just a Catholic thing. Saying that is not a Catholic thing. That's a societal, cultural, political thing. Individualism is at an all-time high. We as a people more than ever are doing things to serve ourselves more than ever. There are services that serve you easier, more efficient than ever. Don't want to go out to a restaurant? You can have food delivered right to your house. You don't want to wait online? You can now get in line online. You don't want to, take a bus? You can now have a car come pick you right up. And all of these, these are not bad things. These are not the problems. Apps that help us in our efficient lives aren't the problem. But beneath all of that, in our spirits, is this idea that the entire world is just trying to serve our individual needs. Everything around us preaches to us to just serve our individual needs. It doesn't matter what institutions say. It doesn't matter what the church says. It doesn't matter what government says. It doesn't matter what schools say. All that matters is that my individual needs are served. And we know this. We see this. We see that people are more individualistic than ever. But what's a result of that? What is a result of being more individualistic than ever, having hyper-individualism in our hearts? We're more isolated than ever. There was an article that came out with Harvard Crimson where Senator from Connecticut, his name, Senator Murphy, Chris Murphy, came out and gave this speech about our hyper-individualistic society. Now, he gives this speech, and the Harvard Crimson writes about it, and about how our United States culture is so so selfish. But then his what is his solution? More government. I agree that our society is more selfish than ever, but my solution is vastly different. I think our solution is different, of which we'll get into. So Chris Murphy says, a lot of us have had this sense of this country in some ways is falling apart at the seams. It's reached a point where I don't think it's sufficient for people in my job, congressmen, senators, to adjust the details of public policy in the existing machine. I don't even know what that means, but I'm reading it. He goes, he says, hyper-individualism was the natural result of a lack of shared reality, suggesting that the path forward should involve more robust social infrastructure. Every branch of government, he says, can do something to reduce isolation and to connect people to each other. Murphy also cited that the commoditization of everything in our society as a reason for why we become more individualistic and less concerned for the common good. So, I agree with the premise of what he says. Our society is more focused on ourselves than ever. Everything, everyone as a whole is being preached the gospel of self. Now, his response is, we need government to help with social infrastructures. But we know that's not going to help. I think if you're watching this, you know that, you're Catholic, you're Christian, you're Protestant, you're a Christian. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not and you just found this video. But I think we know that the answers to our society is not more governmental programs. Government is supposed to support our lives, but we know that the government is not the answer for these deeply spiritual needs. And here it is. Here's my solution. And here's why individualism, hyper-individualism, is so bad for young men. Because as a young guy, you're trying to search for your place in the world. You're trying to see where you fit in. And the world says, folk, get yours, make money, get this, get that, be the best, find things that you're successful, achieve the most, and then the world will respect you, and then you'll find your place once you achieve the most. But as a young guy, and I've learned this the hard way, as a kind of maybe just hitting middle-aged guy, not as young as I used to be guy, our society works when we have strong men who give of themselves rather than take for themselves. We see the results of our society of men who take for themselves. It's not good. We know as guys that we can take for ourselves, take things we want, take what we think we deserve, take, just take. But a really great society and a great thing that I think our country needs is men who give of themselves. But you're not going to find that anywhere. You're not going to find you're not going to find government or companies, institutions saying, men, you need to give of yourself more. You need to give your time, give your energy, give your thoughts, give your service more. So really, it's really only in the church that we see this idea of, hey, it's not about what we take. It's about how we give of ourselves as a way to honor and worship God. So remember what Jesus said. Jesus, God, King of all kings, says, I came to serve, not be served. Okay. So that is the solution for hyper-individualistic society. That is the solution for our country. That is the solution for so many of our problems in this country. And I'm not kidding. Our country has a lot of problems, just like he said in this article and in this speech. Sometimes it feels like our country is bursting at the seams with things that are wrong with it. The solution is not more government programs. The solution is not getting the right person in office. The solution is to not make more money. The solution is to not have all of the best things and then give to people, give people my surplus. The solution is this radical social idea that Jesus said, which is, I came to serve, not be served. Let me say that again. Jesus has the most radical social perspective ever, which he says, I came to serve, not be served. So the challenge for young men is that in a world where you're trying to figure out your place, and in a world which says you need to take what's yours and take yours before it runs out, we need to shift our perspectives to serve those around us, to serve our communities, to serve our culture, to serve our country, and most of all, serve God. That is the solution for a country that's bursting on the seams. Having men who are going around living their lives, serving others. Now, I know that can be like a challenging perspective to have, because when I think of service, I've always had this I've always had this very funny idea of service. Service to me, when I was growing up, was going to my school on the weekend and doing cleanup day. Service was hey, my Catholic school is not going to pay for a janitorial service, so we're going to have all the kids who go to the school come on the weekends and rake the leaves. That was always my idea of service. Hey, I know you don't want to do this, but this is service. You need to do this because service is a good thing. It's all right, I guess could we play with my friends or shooting hoops, but I have to go back to my school on a Saturday and rake leaves. That's service. But what I've learned as I've gotten older and kind of developed a more stronger relationship with God and kind of been more open to God, what he has for my life, is that service is not just like doing really annoying manual labor. That's maybe a tiny part of service. But service is an openness to God and the desire to say yes to what God has for us. God opening the doors and us saying yes to walk through it. Because there's always going to be opportunities to serve others and to serve God and serve communities. But we have to say yes. So it's not just about being like, hey, I'm gonna like go volunteer and paint my church. That is a great part of service. That's important, and volunteering is a very good important part. But this idea of combating individualism in our culture is that we need to be able to say yes to God, just like Mary's yes to, on the Annunciation. We need to say yes, have the humility in our lives to say yes to serve God, say yes to serve others. And so that humility is like at the core of how we can fight individualism in our country. And so I think the thing that our country really, really misses is that we look at all these things we can do to make our society better, to make our culture better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a program. I'm going to start a podcast to talk about God. And these are good. It is good to do things to make our life better. But there's this idea of having this willingness to say yes to God for what he has and to like let go of control and let God take care of the things, because deep down, God is in control. We have to accept that God is moving the pieces that we don't even know are there. And we have to be open to what he has for us and say yes. So if you're a young guy watching this and you feel like, where do I fit in the world? I feel like everything in this life, everything's just telling me that like, I don't have a place in this life. I don't know where I fit in. Be open to what God has for you and just say yes. It might be crazy. It might take you to the ends of the earth. It's definitely going to take you out of your comfort zone. But say yes and give of yourself. Because our model as men is not like super jacked like Marines. Those are great, great manly men. But our model as men is Jesus. And Jesus' whole thing was giving of himself. I came to serve, not be served. And ultimately, Jesus gave of himself so much where he gave his life for us. And that gift of self is that's our model. That, wow, we can give ourselves so much, just like this gift that Jesus gave to us. So I've tried to like remember that so much in my life, that life is not just about taking things and doing good things with them. Okay, let me take all the blessings of my life and then do good stuff with it. That's a good perspective. That's good thing. We want to do good things in life. But there's this mindset shift I've had to have, which is I am going to give of myself. And that means giving time, effort, Saturdays, volunteering. But I'm saying yes to God for what he has for my life. And I trust that God has the best plan for my life. And I have the humility to say my life is about worshiping God and doing what he has for me, rather than making the best things that serve me. Remember, in a world and in a country and in a culture that says you are the most important thing in your life, we as Christian men have to say, Lord, you are the center of my life. And I trust that you have what's best for me, you know what's best for me. And I just give of myself to you and give myself to others to let that plan come to fruition. Very hard. Now, easier to say it, like me saying this into a camera, than to actually do it. But we have to try. We have to give of ourselves. We have to be open for what God has for us. And we have to say yes. We have to not be so focused on how we can benefit from things in life. And that's what's funny. I've realized that like the more times in my life where I felt like I've been looking out for myself the most, kind of like the less happy I was, like the least happy I was. And the more in my life, like right now, we're just kind of just giving myself to life, kids, wife, family, everything. It's like the most happy I am. So let's also not get that twisted. That giving of yourself also makes you happy. And taking to yourself really, just like we see, leads to kind of a miserable life. So that, I think, is a really important message for young men out there. all men, with young men, as you're trying to figure out your place in the world, don't be so focused on how you can benefit from all of your decisions. Be focused on how you can be open for what God has for you and how you can give of yourself, because that will be the easiest and best path to happiness, joy, fruitfulness, peace, and all of these things that are going to be good for you in your life. So that's it for me today. Appreciate you all so much. Thank you for listening, checking in, watching, subscribing. Make sure you share this with someone if you feel like they could benefit from this. And I appreciate you guys just being here with me today. And I enjoyed this so much. I hope you guys all have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Bye.